Dennis.
did it once 6 years ago or so, but that was enough.
All right, Dennis, I'm hoping more people will pop in, but either way, you've got an attentive crew here, and I'm going to give you the floor, and I've done sharing so that you should be able to share.
Hang on a second here. I almost forgot. Here I'm sitting talking. I should.
I see you.
I'm going to turn my camera off to save some bandwidth here.
Okay.
Okay.
Guys, y'all don't look at me. Y'all don't want to just look at me.
Can you see my screen?
No,
No.
all we see is you.
Okay. How do I turn the screen on, Larry?
I turn sharing on. Go down and click share screen. Oh, here comes another person.
Good.
You see,
How about now?
we're getting there. There we go. Yep, you're in.
Just
Okay.
dream.
Okay, you are up and running.
Okay. Well, I titled this presentation, Just a Dream, Just a Dream, All Our Plans and All Our Schemes, with my apologies to Jimmy Clanton, who sang the song back in I think it was 59.
I was going to say,
This
who's Jimmy Clanton? That's...
Well, if you want to know, you can Google it.
Well,
Every answer to every question is somewhere in Google. Okay, WRTC 2022. Now it's in 2023, and it's almost amazing that the Italians pulled off this at all. When you figure that, I think it was 2020 and 2021, major disruptions with COVID, particularly to transportation. In 2020, it would have been impossible to get people there. Of course, it was in between anyway. It was supposed to come off in 2022, and it just wasn't going to happen. And then in 2023, about 2 months before WRT was scheduled, there were massive floods in northern Italy, where a number of the stations were going to be. Any case, World Radio Team Championships, WRTC. For those that aren't familiar with the contesting lingo, it's a multi-two type approach. They're two-man teams. Multi-two means you could have two transmitters CQing on different bands. And that was the only restriction. There was you didn't have to go on a band and stay there for 10 minutes or 20 minutes. The only restriction was both stations could not be on the same band. Every station was provided the same antenna. We had a 7-element tri-bander, 2 on 20, 2 on 15, and 3 on 10, about 30 feet. Of those who remember Boston, it was the same style antenna, not the same antennas, but the same type of antenna. And dipoles for 40 and 80. And there's quite a lot of variation in 40 and 80 dipoles. Some of them only had enough room so that they were 1 foot off the ground at the end. And everybody also had a rotor, so you could turn the antenna. There were multipliers in this contest. The multipliers were countries per band. So there was a reason to switch and go to a lot of bands. But once you worked a country on that band, you got QSO points for working another one, but you didn't get any more multipliers for that country on that band. 100 watts, CW and sideband only. To prevent cheating, and who would cheat in a contest, each station has a referee to watch for cheating. The power output from each transmitter is monitored, and if you're into the red, the referee will come over and tap you on the shoulder and make you turn it down. So that's basically what the contest is. And 70 of the best contesters in the world gathered in Bologna, Italy for WRTC 2022. Now, of course, that's not necessarily the start. WRTC 2018 has had its final standings. The 2 years before the WRTC year, there are a number of contests during the year. So you've perhaps heard of CQ Worldwide or ARRLDX, and you would compete as a single operator and get points for those. And in 2018, the top 3 point getters got invitations to go to WRTC. And as you can see, I was 4th. Still, that was good, but being 4th didn't get me anything. I went as a referee instead, somehow managed to stay up all night, but at the time I said I would not go back to a WRTC unless I was going to actually compete, because there's no sense in feeling that terrible unless you actually competed. And let's see, here's WRTC 2022 standings. In this particular one, the top 2 got to go. Or the top 3, I'm sorry, the top 3 got to go. And instead, I was a top 4. So I missed out again, just barely. I'm sorry, the top 2 got to go, automatic berths. And the top guy decided he was going to go with somebody else's teammate. The second guy took it, and the third guy on the list here procrastinated and didn't give up his position till April. So the contest was in July, and I didn't have a confirmed position until April. It shouldn't have happened at all, probably, but it did happen, but in 2023. It was canceled from July 2022, and of course, in February of 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. There was no interplay from that I saw. That doesn't mean there wasn't any, but there's no tiffs between Ukrainians and Russians or Western and Russians, because there were a number of Russians there. And in May 2023, there were torrential rains and flooding in the WRTC area of Bologna, Italy. The common joke among the WRTC competitors was all we needed were the locusts. Now, here's our band decoder. We borrowed this from KK1L. And what this did is it would automatically change the antenna to the radio depending on what band you were on. And here is the relay bank that was switched by the band decoder. And this was a donation from K3JO. Thank you, Velimir. K1XM, my partner, supplied BPFs, bandpass filters. What the bandpass filters does is you can have, well, let me come back to that in a second. And VA6AM, a Canadian, also designed a triplexer. N1CNG gave me this kit for the triplexer. And this was about April. So I had to construct it and tune it in the 2 months before the competition. But what a triplexer allows you to do is you can take a tri-band beam and you can run one station on 15, one on 10, and another on 20. And it's almost enough at the 100-watt level so that you don't even know the other guy is on. But if you add bandpass filters, for sure, you didn't know the other guy was on. We had 0 interstation interference using these bandpass filters and triplexer. And a triplexer is a great thing to have on field day. Here is the jumpers I made to tie all the pieces together. Double shielded coax, anywhere from 12 to 18 inches long. Yeah, this doesn't look like much here, but using the double shield to Teflon coax, each of these jumpers was about $8 worth of connectors to construct. And Paul was modifying a headphone box. One of the requirements in the contest is that you have to provide an audio recording. So if the judges have any doubt in their mind about what you worked, they have an audio recording they can refer back to. Airline flights. Oh my God, I almost forgot I had to book an airline flight. So I got to Bologna, leaving Monday the 3rd, 6 o'clock at night. And I arrived Tuesday at 10:15 in the morning. And I have to tell you, I was exhausted. I was tired. Finally got to WRTC about noon. And of course, to fly to Europe, there's really no other way to do it other than overnight. Unfortunately, during all of this, I had a problem. Last year, I somehow developed a hernia. Through the spring, it had actually gotten worse until I wound up in the emergency room on June 3rd because the pain was too intense. And if you've had one of these, it's one of these where you push it back in, you stand up, and it just rolls back out again. After the emergency room workup, I was seen by my surgeon, and they said, don't go to Italy unless you can get it fixed. And I said, well, how soon can we fix it? And they checked and said 6 to 8 weeks before they had a surgical opening. Because I figured this was my shot to go. My surgeon did say, though, that she had heard of an opening the following week, and I said if she could, grab it. The following day, she called and said June 13th was the day. So it was. 3 weeks after the inguinal hernia was fixed, came July 3rd, which is the day to leave. But the 6 months of living with the hernia, it taken a lot out of me. And I didn't want to give up my position at WRTC because I figured this was my shot to go. And I'd like to thank Paul, K1XM, and Charlotte, KQ1F, for shouldering most of the burden in getting the stuff to WRTC, because we had all that stuff, 2 radios, all of our personal belongings to transport. And here we are. There we are. There's Paul. I don't know if anybody knows him, but Paul and his wife Charlotte do underwater scuba. They've gone all over the world to do it, and usually tie in with the CQ Worldwide contest. Perhaps some of you have heard of Nodir, EY8MM. That's him. And then, of course, that's me. Here's Chalk, JT1CO. Crossy, K1LZ. Probably a lot of you have heard of Crossy. Can you guess where these guys are from? Blue and yellow. They're all from the Ukraine. Dinner, pasta every night. We got there on a Monday, and it was Thursday before we ever saw anything green on our plates. They made me a special order of lettuce, of salad on Thursday night, which was the first green thing I ate since I arrived in Italy. Now, I got to tell you, I like pasta, but I also like vegetables. And here's the opening ceremony. There's Paul and myself again. When they called your name, you stood up and held up your sign. Everybody clapped, and you went on to the next guy. This is the one trip that I did take. This is a Guglielmo Marconi Museum. Marconi was born and raised in Bologna, or slightly outside of it. And this was his old house. Here's Klaatu. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's a statue of Marconi. The big issue facing everybody was the station draw. Here they have Camilla, who was doing the station draw. She would draw one thing out of here and one thing out of here, put them together, and that would be where you would be going for the contest over the weekend. Bribery at WRTC? It certainly didn't help. Looking back on it now, we would have been better off getting Camila a squishmallow and take our chances on a second site. The sites were drawn in a blind fashion. Camila drew one of each, and it was announced, and your fate was set. Randy K5ZD had said, the winners and losers will be determined by the site draw Friday morning, but you won't know which one you are. How true that statement is. Unfortunately, we were not one of the winners. And here's everybody as he started drawing the sites. And this, I copied this because this is a little blurb in one of their books. These rooms are equipped with air conditioning and private bathrooms, ensuring a comfortable stay for the guests. Additionally, the facilities provide various amenities, including breakfast, lunch, and dinner services to cater to the needs of the WRTC guests. Unfortunately, every site wasn't like that. The B&B, this particular weekend, it was in the high 90s every day where we were, and the high humidity. The B&B we stayed in the night before the contest had no air conditioning. Breakfast the morning of the contest came out of a box. I can't sleep when it's real hot, and it was real hot. Finally, about 2 a.m. Saturday morning, I opened the windows. We had a little breeze, and I was able to fall asleep. Mosquitoes ate me alive, but I was still able to sleep. Here's the picture of the different sites. Now, down here, this was us down here. The furthest east and the furthest south. There were another, I'm going to say 15 to 20 sites in here that were flooded out, that people did not use because the places where they were going to stay had sustained substantial flood damage. Here is where we stayed. This side of the building, it's a gymnasium. You can see our antenna. This was in direct sunlight all day long. And here's the inside. You can see where we set up here. Our air conditioning was the open door and the little fan there. And it was, the temp dropped below 90 degrees about 2 a.m. in the morning finally. So yeah, it was hot. Restroom facilities. What do they call these? A Turkish toilet or something? We had 2 of these, and to get to them was an 8 to 10 walk, 8 to 10 minute round trip walk plus business time. So it wasn't very convenient, but you know, you do what you got to do. This is the gym we stayed at. This road and this road were both elevated 12, 15 feet above ground, so they didn't flood out. So this direction here is Germany, not Germany, US. This direction here was Germany and Russia. This direction here was Africa, and further down Italy. Here's our first lunch. We ate on a park bench. Typical antenna setup. And everybody had one of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2-element rotary. On there, you can see the rotor there. 40-meter dipole and an 80-meter dipole. Setting up. That's me. Oh, a wine break. Here we're setting up again. Here it's set up. The antenna switching setup, automatic band switching, triplexer, and bandpass filters. It worked perfectly throughout the entire contest. Never any station interference. Here is a tuner so that if we went from 80-meter CW to sideband, we could just turn a switch and the SWR on the sideband section would be good. And this is a power meter. For Boston in 2014, I built, I think it was 45 power meters. And some of the innards have changed, but the outers are still the work that we did. This was a big thing in the town. Mayor, police chief, fire chief, site manager. They all showed up for this. Now, here's a picture of us operating. You can't necessarily tell, but my t-shirt was stuck to my skin due to perspiration. And here's Paul. It's discouraging during a contest if your other stations running stations that you can't even hear. It's discouraging during a contest to have a good CQ frequency. Then one of your competitors lands on your frequency and you're not loud enough to chase him away. In other words, keep him from stealing your frequency. It's also discouraging during a contest to call a station that is calling CQ and he doesn't hear enough of your signal to even say QRZ, but instead call CQ again. It was a tough weekend for us. And here's awards banquet, awaiting final results. And here are the winners. UW7LL and VE3DZ. VE3DZ is also from Ukraine. And he's also the owner proprietor of Rig Expert. At the end of the contest, both Paul and I were exhausted. Our referee asked us what happened because we dropped 5 or 6 places in the last hours. I didn't know the answer then, but I figured it out later on. The heat and humidity got to us. Paul fell asleep at least twice in the last hour. I had a wet towel around my neck trying to get some relief from the heat and the number of microsleeps in the last several hours. On Sunday, the outside temperature was 98. And also, if you're familiar with contests, they usually start so that everybody has the same UTC hours. Well, operating IAR from Europe, in the USA, East Coast, it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. From Italy, it starts at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, psychologically, you push through the night, and once the sun comes up Sunday morning, you only have 2 hours to make it till the contest is over. Well, when the sun comes up in Europe Sunday morning, it's still got 8 hours to go. And 8 hours is too long to function just on adrenaline, whereas you can do it in the US. Nothing in this presentation should be construed that didn't mean that we would have placed substantially higher had we had a different site. We think we would have done better, but we were in no danger of breaking into the top half. Still, it was a luck of the draw, or rather the absence of luck in our draw. Here are the Yankee Clipper Contest Club, competitors and referees. Best finish we had was K5ZD, 8th place. WA1Z was 22nd. KO8SCA was 28th. Here we were at 48. And there were, I think there were 65 teams. I'm not going to blow you with a blow-by-blow of my return to the USA. I'll just say I had a nice seat in business class from Rome to Heathrow, then from Heathrow to Boston. Getting to Rome for Bologna required trains, buses, and a lot of walking. And this is a day when it was outside the Termini in the train station in Rome. It was 100 degrees. Plenty hot enough for me. During the trip home, I felt terrible. Headache, backache, feet ache, and I had to lug a 62-pound suitcase with me. I felt bad enough that for the first time in my life, I had to ask the flight crew for assistance. Once at Heathrow, I would never have made the next flight, different terminal, different gate, without the wheelchair assistance. 2 days after arriving home, I still didn't feel any better. Splitting headache, body aches. Guess what else I brought home from Italy? Yeah. It was COVID. From the count that we had, there were at least 20 guys who went to the awards banquet that came home and had brought COVID with them. So I went there exhausted, came home exhausted, and finally came down with COVID. It all seems today like a dream. Any chance of qualifying for 2026? Okay, any questions here?
No questions at all from anybody?
Well, I gotta unmute myself.
Yep.
Are you sure you want to do it again?
No,
Really?
I'm not. No. One of the things I did realize ahead of time was that the site makes all the difference. And it's strictly luck of the draw.
But
Dennis,
didn't they, in the US, didn't they make an attempt to have the sites be similar?
Well, I think they did originally, but when the flooding came and hit, I think that went out the window.
Yeah.
They lost about 20 sites to the flooding. And so now all of a sudden, 3 or 4 weeks before the contest, they're scrambling to find new sites.
Now, what did you guys use for rigs?
We brought K4s,
Oh, okay.
the Elecraft K4s.
And what did the other competitors use? Something similar or?
A lot of K3s, K4s, 7610s. There were several guys that brought big icons, big Yaesu 5000.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I just couldn't see transporting something like a 5000 there. The K3 or K4 was plenty big enough. I just couldn't see, 5,000, probably weighs 40 or 50 pounds. So, there's your luggage right there.
Right.
Yeah. But some guys brought 2 radios, 2 of everything.
Right.
Because you can't just pick up and get something that if you forget it or it breaks.
Right.
I know when I was in Germany as a referee, the team I was with burnt up 2 DC power supplies before they were able to borrow one that didn't burn up. There are also little other inconsistencies, at least for an American going there. The power plugs are different. It's 240 volts, not 110 volts or 120. That's different. So you had to make sure that everything that you brought was going to work on 240, or you had to find something so that it would work on 240.
Back in 2014, did the stations all use the same radios or everybody had their own radios too?
Everybody brought their own radios.
Okay.
Yep. And back in 2014, the #1 radio was easily the K3
Yeah, that's what I figured.
because it's high performance and it's 10 pounds.
Jürgen, you had a question?
No, I had the same question with the sites, how they were evaluated.
What was
I'm
the
just
question?
curious.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Jackie.
I'm just wondering, did you have any problems bringing your radio stuff over with the airlines or with any of the officials that you had to go through?
Everything had been pre-approved by the Germans as coming in. We had to submit serial numbers and rig names, and that was all taken care of. As far as I know, nobody had any problem bringing stuff in.
Wow, it's great.
And if they had a problem getting it out, I don't know about it. But you're right. When you go on a de-expedition, that's often a problem.
Yeah.
Is that all of a sudden you'll find some customs officer that's not clued in
Right.
that suddenly wants money. Yeah, I went to Grenada in the early aughts, 3 years in a row. And the third year I was there, they wanted $1,700 to bring my transceiver in.
Ooh.
And they weren't even going to let me have it. They were going to lock it up until I paid $1,700. Now, we had everything taken care of ahead of time, but the guy that had taken care of it wasn't there at the time we got there on Wednesday. So we had to go back to the airport the next day with him, and he got the stuff released.
So where is the next WRTC going to be held?
England.
Oh.
If you Google WRTC 2026, you will see the qualifications have already started. Because because you only have 3 years instead of 4 for the cycle. You're only going to have 1 year, I believe, or 1.5 years of competition for the qualification stations.
So Dennis, what do you think of the K4?
Loved it. Loved it. The only drawback that I'll say it had is I have a case that fits the K3 perfectly, and it fits underneath the seat in front of my airline chair. The K4 is just a little bit bigger, taller. It won't fit in the same case, and you can't get the K4 underneath the chair in front. You don't have the room.
Oh, so you gotta.
That's the only bad thing I can say about it. And yeah, there was a learning curve with it, but never really found it all that steep. Just everything, and you just set it on a frequency and call CQ anyway.
Now, did Elecraft sponsor you, or is that your personal K4, or somebody loaned it to you?
Somebody loaned me the K4. Paul had one, and somebody else loaned it to me.
Mm-hmm.
But when I classify radios in my mind, a radio is either good enough or it's not good enough for a serious contest of radio. K3 is good enough. K4 is good enough. 7610 is good enough. A 7300 is not good enough for a number of reasons. I'll tell you, in my opinion, the 7300 is a great value in a radio.
Right,
And
but it's not for serious contesters though.
No. But the 7610 is. You can make that do a lot of good stuff.
Nice. Anybody else have any questions? Have any other questions or comments?
Dennis, what did you do in Honduras? I just see your call sign there.
Honduras?
Yeah.
A friend of mine has a rental station in Honduras. And we've gone down there for CQ Worldwide CW contests the last couple of years. And both years we made over 10,000 QSOs.
Whoa.
For a we call it again a multi-2 station. So we're real happy with the way it's done there. And all he has is the tri-bander and quarter-wave verticals for the 3 lowest bands. And we're able to make 10,000 QSOs.
That's crazy. That's an insane number of QSOs.
Yeah.
I made 800.
Yep. Yeah, both times we've had 4-man teams. And we've had good teams both times. And I think we made 7 more QSOs this last year. No,
Very
and the
good.
7 less QSOs, but about 40, 45 more multipliers.
Another question about CW versus sideband.
Yep.
You operate CW mostly?
In this contest, yes.
Yeah.
They tried something different this time. The sideband contacts were worth 3 points. CW were worth 2.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Still,
Huh.
remember, you're dealing with 100 watts and an antenna at 30 feet. So how loud do you think a sideband signal is going to be? Versus how much better a CW signal is going to be heard.
Mhm.
We still found 80% of our contacts were CW. And most of the operators that we talked to, I won't say they had as high a number, but having more points for sideband was not significant.
Well, I have a question. When you're obviously you're operating in July, and is there a contest going on, or is it just WRTC and everybody's trying to work you?
Oh, there's actual contests going on. Have you heard of the IARU contest?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the same weekend as the IARU contest, but it uses
Wow.
different rules, particularly for multipliers. The IARU contest has the IARU zones as a multipliers, and the zones plus headquarters stations for the IARU multipliers. But for WRTC, it's the XCC countries and what was the other one? The like DARC, the country, DARC and ARRL. I'm trying to think of the name, but I think you have the idea what I'm talking about. SARA, SARQ, headquarters societies of the different country.
Neat. Sounds like fun, even though it was stressful and hot and miserable, and I'm sure there was a level of excitement that you can't be beat, no matter how bad you feel or how miserable you are from the heat.
Well,
That
as I
is,
say, I think it took its toll on us, and that's why we had problems at the end.
when you were working the station of the contest, do you use the exchange then, or what did you use?
You use the IARU exchange. So I believe we were zone. Let's see. Can't even remember now. All I know is it's not zone 15. 28, that's what it was. Italy's in zone 28. So we'd be sending 59928 or 5NN28.
Wow. Well, sounds like fun anyways, and
It was fun. It was a great time,
mm-hmm.
you know. But we would have had more fun at a better time if perhaps if we had an air-conditioned site.
Right, or hydrated better, or it wasn't so hot. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can understand it.
yeah, I think by the end of the contest, I think that's when it made a difference, and that's why we dropped so much the last hour, because we were both exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, after you finish the contest, you have to take everything apart and repack it. So that's another 2 hours. And here you've already been up for probably 26 or 28 hours straight. Now you got to spend another couple hours packing it away. And then there's a 2-hour trip back to the
awards
headquarters
ceremony.
in Bologna.
Mm-hmm.
So all together, you're probably awake for 30, 32 hours straight.
Oh, goodness.
And I was really in no condition to have done that. But hey, this is WRTC. That's what you do.
Great.
Well,
So,
thank
yeah,
you very much.
it was fun.
Thank you very much for presenting. It sounds exciting, and hopefully we'll hear you on some more. I know you're an avid contester from Eastern Mass, and I'm sure, I know I've worked on a number of contests, and I'm sure Jurgen has too. And if Randy ever gets on the air for something other than Poda or Soda, he might work you also.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we appreciate it. And everything's being recorded. It'll be up on the HCRA videos and probably in a couple of days whenever our web gurus get to it. But
And if anybody has any questions, they can send it along to my email. W1UE73@gmail.com.
sounds good.
Cool.
Thanks for the good talk.
Yeah,
Oh, thank
thank
you.
you, Dennis.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks very
Thanks,
much,
Dennis.
everybody. Don't forget we have a
Thank
meeting
you,
this Friday.
Dennis.
We have a meeting Friday night at the Holyoke Hospital on APRS and digital APRS presented by Gary WRTC. That's an in-person thing. So everybody have a good evening, and I know we'll see some of you Friday night. And thanks for joining us tonight, and thanks again, Dennis. It was a pleasure. Very interesting presentation.
So long.
So everything.